Face-off pivots around FBI agent Sean Archer and terrorist Castor Troy, whose lives are intertwined by fate and tragedy. Archer's vendetta against Troy is deeply personal, stemming from the loss of his young son, who was killed by a bullet meant for him by Troy. This tragedy fuels Archer's relentless pursuit of Troy. A singular purpose drives him: to bring to justice the man responsible for his pain, Castor Troy, a notorious terrorist with a penchant for chaos. It culminates 6 years later when an undercover agent reveals Troy's location. Archer's team ambushes Troy's private plane with his younger brother and accomplice Pollux on a remote desert airstrip. Troy taunts Archer by saying he knows of a bomb that is located somewhere in Los Angeles and is set to explode in a few days. But before Archer can learn more, Troy is knocked unconscious and falls into a coma. Back at FBI headquarters, a celebration ensues due to the capture of Troy, but is short-lived when the plans for the bomb are discovered from a disc in Pollux Troy's briefcase. The only clue to the bomb's location lies within Troy's criminal circle, accessible only to him. In a daring and desperate measure, Archer agrees to undergo a revolutionary surgical procedure to swap faces with Troy. This procedure is a disguise and a deep plunge into the enemy's psyche and world. Archer, now bearing Troy's visage, willingly surrenders himself to go undercover in a state-of-the-art maximum prison facility to find the location of the bomb set to detonate at any moment. Inside, Archer realizes he must adopt Troy's mannerisms to survive and gain the trust and respect of the inmates he himself incarcerated. Meanwhile, the real Troy awakens from his coma and discovers that his face is missing. He calls his gang, and they force Dr. Walsh to transplant Archer's face onto him. Troy then kills the only people other than Archer who know of the transplant. Troy as Archer appears, surprising him. Gloating, Troy as Archer tells him that no one else knows about the face transplant and that he intends to take over Archer's life to ruin it before getting his own face back. With the face swap complete, both men embark on a journey that blurs the lines between self and other. Conversely, Troy, adorned with Archer's face, infiltrates Archer's professional and personal life, exploiting the trust and affection Archer's colleagues and family have for him. Troy's impersonation of Archer is a perverse mirror image, reflecting a life that could have been Archer's had circumstances been different. Wasting no time, Pollux Troy is pardoned and is now aware of the face swap and teases Archer as he passes by his cell. Part of Pollux's deal is to give the location of the bomb he built. Castor convinces his brother to allow him to disarm the bomb. Troy as Archer goes to the location. Not to his surprise, the bomb squad is unable to disarm the bomb and suggests evacuation. Troy as Archer dismisses all personnel on the scene and easily disarms the bomb he armed 10 days ago to gain a hero status within the Bureau for a much darker purpose. Running out of time and options, Archer purposely assaults a guard to gain access to the shock therapy room where he learns his magnetic boots will be removed. As Archer is getting strapped in the chair, he notices an inmate who just received shock treatment on the floor. He recognizes him as Ivan Dubov, an enemy of Castor Troy's. Archer convinces Ivan of a truce so they can work together to escape. Ivan awakes and attacks the guard from behind. Archer grabs the guard's gun and takes cover from guards opening fire from above. Not wanting to kill any guards, Archer uses unorthodox methods to take out the guards and then joins Ivan on the balcony, who is clearing a path. As Ivan and Archer make their way to the control room, Archer stops Ivan from killing more guards, leaving much surprise to Ivan and the guards. Archer goes to the console to create a system overload to release the inmates from containment, causing a riot to distract the guards, so Archer can make his way outside to reach the heliport. Much to Archer's surprise, the helicopter was already in the air, determined to interrupt Archer's last hope to escape. As of now, terrorist Castor Troy has been disguised as FBI agent Sean Archer for a couple of weeks and continues to grow closer to Archer's family, sharing deep, intimate moments and using his position as an FBI agent to solidify his power. As Troy is on his way to work, Eve, Sean Archer's wife, stops him and reminds him, today is a day for an annual tradition they shared. Castor has no clue what she is talking about, but goes along with it anyway. Every year, the two of them visit their deceased son's grave on his birthday. However, Eve is unaware that the man she believes to be her husband is Castor Troy, the terrorist responsible for their son Michael's death. It's an intimate and quiet moment meant to pay respects to their son. And for Eve, it symbolizes the deep emotional burden that both she and Sean have been carrying. Castor Troy, disguised as Sean Archer, acts out the role of the grieving father, but his true nature remains concealed behind Sean's face. While Eve expresses her heartache, Castor attempts to manipulate her, pretending to feel remorse. He plays along with her emotions, further deceiving her to solidify his position in Sean's life. As Troy makes his way back to FBI headquarters, he gets the shocking news that Castor Troy is dead and that he got killed trying to escape from Erewhon, the high-security offshore prison where he had been incarcerated. Troy requested to see his body, and the agents told him it hadn't been recovered yet. Troy becomes irate and immediately takes control of the situation, issuing commands to tighten security and ordering an immediate manhunt for the escaped Castor Troy. Dr. Archer receives a call at work, thinking it's her husband but doesn't recognize the man's voice on the other line. The man informs her that the man living with her is not her husband, and you're in grave danger. He tells her to get her daughter and get out of town immediately. Eve quickly disregards the call and tells the man to not call her again. Troy as Archer receives a call from the same man who reveals himself as Castor Troy, who quickly hangs up knowing the call could be traced. Troy is now faced with the reality Archer is coming for him, and his days of multiplication will soon come to an end. Sean must now fight not only to clear his name but to protect his family and stop Castor from destroying everything he holds dear. After successfully breaking out of the high-security prison, Archer faces immediate challenges. He must find a way back to Los Angeles without being detected, all while remaining in the body of one of the most dangerous terrorists in the world. Desperate for allies, he turns to Castor's criminal associates. This leads him to Sasha Hassler, a former lover of Castor Troy, and her brother Dietrich Hassler, who are major players in Castor's criminal network. Dietrich, unaware of the face swap, takes in Archer with no hesitation, introduces Archer to the group and is treated like a king and receives a hero's welcome. Dietrich places a chest in Archer's lap left by Troy with his signature-style gold dual Beretta 92 FS semi-automatic pistols, along with a wad of cash and other party treats. Dietrich fixes him a drink with a potent sedative or tranquilizer, and then discuss what the next move is to get who he believes is Troy out of town. Archer says, "I'm not going anywhere. I want Sean Archer with your help." Dietrich agrees and gives him a toast. After taking a few sips of the drink, Sean begins to feel its effects. He starts to experience dizziness and fatigue, showing signs of disorientation as the sedative takes hold. His expression changes from relaxed to concerned as he realizes something is wrong. Archer does his best to maintain his cover, but the drugs are too much and Archer excuses himself from the group. He tries to compose himself by splashing water on his face and startled himself seeing his reflection in the mirror, unaware Sasha was watching him the whole time and is confused by his odd behavior. Castor is initially drawn to Jamie in a predatory way, but over time he becomes protective of her in his twisted way. He teaches her how to defend herself, giving her a butterfly knife, a signature weapon of Castor Troy. Castor's dual nature, both dangerous and protective, is highlighted. Still feeling the effects of the drugs Archer ingested in his system, Sasha tries to take care of him. Archer gains composure and his agent's instincts take over. On the roof next door, Pollux Troy discovers Archer as he is staking out at all of Castor Troy's old hideouts, hoping that Archer would make his appearance. He immediately calls his brother to inform him of Archer's location. Hours go by and Sasha continues to aid Archer, thinking he's the man she once loved and knowing he will be leaving soon. Archer tells Sasha he is not leaving until he gets help from her brother. Sasha wants Archer to go. She knows if the FBI finds out he was here, she would lose her son. Castor mobilizes a unit of agents outside the building ready to move in on Archer's location and eliminate anyone that stands in the way. Sasha introduces her son Adam to Archer and then shocks him with the news that he's the father. Archer is astonished by the resemblance of his deceased son in Adam and embraces him as if he was his own. Castor gives the order to use gas and to move in on Archer. The agents open fire. Archer shields Adam from the gunfire and retreats to the main room. The team of FBI agents outside is unaware that they're firing at one of their own and is giving Castor quite a spectacle to behold. As agents crash down from the skylights, Dietrich is armed and ready to retaliate. Sasha arms herself with a killed agent's weapon as she continues to follow Archer, who is still trying to get her son to safety. Archer yells at the agent blocking the doorway to hold his fire as Archer runs away with young Adam in his arms. Agents continue to crash through windows. Sasha opens fire on them, not showing remorse toward them. The agents that come in contact with Archer receive a hard-hitting, non-lethal result. Dietrich fights off the remaining agents, but realizes more are coming, so he makes his retreat slowly behind the others. Another agent is blocking an exit and holds up Sasha, who is carrying her son to safety. Archer sneaks up on the agent and tells the agent to drop his gun as Sasha makes her way out to the lobby area of the building. Archer struggles with the agent and ends up unmasking him. Archer recognizes him as one of his close friends. Archer knocks him to the ground and fires a missed shot to keep his cover with Dietrich. Dietrich slowly makes his way towards Sasha and Adam. He tells his sister to get out and not to look back. Then Dietrich turns to Archer to give his last respects to someone in his mind as a terrorist. Dietrich's gunshot wound to the neck is revealed and falls into Archer's arms. Archer catches him and lowers him slowly to the floor. Archer arms himself and knows that Castor Troy is the man who stands between him and the exit. He hears movement and sees a figure running behind the mirrored structures. Archer opens fire. The figure stops behind one of the mirrored structures. Archer stands on the other side of the structure. Castor decides to use this moment as a temporary ceasefire to get Archer to agree to reverse the face swap procedure. Archer turns down the deal due to all the damage done by Troy being unable to be fixed. Castor, annoyed with Archer's choice, suggests another option to just kill each other. The firefight continues, with both men once again firing at each other. Castor knocks down the mirrored structure, hoping for a better shot, but sees Archer waiting to hit him with a clear shot, but gets distracted when he notices an approaching agent armed with a grenade launcher attachment and quickly retreats. Archer makes his way to the roof, but Pollux Troy is stationed there and decides to chase after him. Archer saw Pollux and decided to take him out once and for all. Pollux crashes directly above the main lobby and lands at his brother's feet. Troy sees Archer hanging on a beam above and opens fire, missing him by the narrowest margin. Castor notices that the man that fell to his death was his brother. He shows heavy emotions of sadness. The agent on site is confused as to why a man he thinks is FBI agent Sean Archer would show any kind of sympathy toward a bomb builder like Pollux Troy, is killed on the spot for shrugging off to a grieving Castor Troy. The next day, Castor is grilled by FBI Director Victor Lazaro over the events that took place the night before. He tells Troy, disguised as Sean Archer, that he's terminating his war on terrorists. Castor is still grieving the loss of his brother, is in no mood to hear his orders, and agrees to what Victor is saying. Castor tells Victor that he wants to confess something to him, and he won't like what he is about to say. Castor leans in close and gently rests his hand on Victor's shoulder and grips him tight and whispers, "I am Castor Troy." Castor attacks him with a vicious chop to the back of the neck, followed by a hard elbow to his heart, causing it to stop, causing instant death. Castor knew Victor was showing signs of heart issues and knew exactly where to strike. Castor calls for aid using the excuse that Victor has had a heart attack and requests an ambulance for him. With escaped terrorist Castor Troy still on the loose, the Archer residence is under 24-hour security. Archer makes his way past the guards and gains entry to his bedroom. His wife Eve had just finished a shower and walked past him unaware of his presence. Archer mutters Eve's name, and she quickly turns to see a man she knows all too well, the man who killed her son, Castor Troy. Archer muffles her scream with his shoulder and quickly tells her to not look at him, forget about his voice, and to listen to what he says. Archer tells her in detail of the fight they had the night he went away, as well as other details only he would know about her. Eve sits and listens to what Archer has to say about the top-secret assignment to face swap with Troy, to gain information about the bomb that was set to detonate at the LA Convention Center. Eve is in shock and is not sure to believe his story. Archer knows his time is short before he leaves, so he gives her information about the differences between his and Castor Troy's blood types. Later that night, Eve starts to understand the sudden odd behaviors of her husband and is slowly finding herself uncomfortable in his presence. Castor is a master of manipulation and continues to play the role of a loving husband to Eve, who is becoming more and more silent, but is slowly finding a different role of compassion towards Troy herself. Castor shares the unfortunate news to her that Victor Lazaro had died of a heart attack and walks away to leave her with her thoughts. But her thoughts are becoming more and more suspicious of the man laying in her bed. She waits for him to fall asleep and picks his arm with a needle, then goes straight to the hospital to analyze the blood sample to see if there is a difference. She discovers the blood taken from the man she shares a bed with, the same man living with her, and her daughter has the same blood type as the terrorist Castor Troy. Archer was waiting for Eve at the hospital, hoping she would believe his story. Eve draws her gun on Archer. She lets him know that she is not sure what to believe. She expresses her thoughts that maybe her husband is already dead. Archer walks to her slowly and brushes the gun away. Archer starts to talk about their first date in great detail of the events that occurred that night, and as he is telling the story of what happened, she starts to slowly realize he is her husband and starts to show signs of trust towards him. The next morning, Castor wakes up to an empty bed and begins to think thoughts of betrayal himself. Eve stayed the night with Archer, fixing his wounds, planning on their next move on how to deal with Troy. Archer wants Eve to leave town and take their daughter Jamie with her. Eve believes that will cause more suspicion towards her because she needs to be with Troy for Victor's funeral. Castor arrives at the hospital along with his associates Leo and Lars. A nurse recognizes him and refers him to Mr. Archer. Archer hears her and quickly makes his exit. Eve wants to know why he's here. He tells her he was concerned with her leaving in the middle of the night, and she informs him she's a doctor and was called in. Archer meets up with Sasha. She wants revenge for her brother's death against Sean Archer. Archer keeps his cover and advises her to stay out of this and tells her whatever happens today, Sean Archer is out of your life for good. Archer makes his way towards the beachfront church where the funeral is being held. The service is filled with FBI agents and family members of Victor's, as well as Eve and Castor Troy sitting in the front row. This scene shows the maniacal behavior of Troy, who finds himself once again at a ceremonial service for one of his victims. Archer waits till everyone leaves to pay his respects. Troy enters behind him with Eve as his hostage. Archer holds his fire but remains cautious of any surprises. Troy finally admits that their son's death was an accident and that he meant to kill Archer. Troy says Archer's ambition for revenge has led to this moment, and he will be responsible for his wife's death. Archer says no father would let this go. Neither would a sister, says Sasha, pointing a gun at Troy, thinking it's Archer, the man who killed her brother. She tosses Archer a second gun to help with the growing threat of Leo. With Sasha blinded by revenge, she doesn't believe Troy's confession that he is Castor and the man you teamed up with is Archer. Sasha lets down her guard and allows Lars to sneak behind her. Archer is starting to believe his cover is blown, and his odds of him and his wife surviving this encounter have become 2 to 4. Sasha is starting to begin to realize the true meaning of the situation, but makes the selfless decision to save Eve from the danger. Troy opens fire thinking he can just take out all the threats to him all at once. Archer falls backward, taking out both Leo and Lars. Eve hits Troy with a chair to immobilize him. He then takes cover from Archer's gunfire, jumping behind the choir wall. Sasha falls on top of Archer. She knows the truth but keeps it to herself and just has a last request for Archer to take care of our boy, to not let him grow up like us. Sasha was hit during the firefight and takes one last breath before resting her head on Archer. Troy gains composure and sees an opportunity to escape. He runs to the exit. Archer opens fire, still on the ground, not able to get a clear shot. Troy grabs the Uzi dropped by Leo and makes his way outside. Jamie, who is kidnapped by Lars, makes her way toward the church looking for her mom. Troy sees her thinking about taking her hostage. Archer quickly intervenes with great resistance. He takes cover behind the wall along with Jamie. Archer sees his daughter for the first time in over 2 weeks. But Jamie sees the face of her brother's killer and tries to get away from him. Archer ends up shoving her down the stairs to keep her safe from the gunfight. Troy continues to open fire and does not care who he hits in the process. Archer is now given the task of protecting Jamie from Troy. She still shows signs of resentment towards Archer, making things more difficult for him. Eve contacts the FBI. She informs them of the situation and requests immediate aid. Archer manages to subdue Troy and feels victory is close at hand. Jamie sees the man she believes is her father in trouble and takes matters into her own hands. Archer sees his daughter pointing a gun at him and tries to tell her to not shoot, and that he is her father. Troy returns a message of the same nature and orders her to shoot Archer. A tug-of-war of decisions is going through her head. Then she fires. The bullet grazes Archer's left upper arm, but it's enough for him to let go of his hold. Troy quickly shrugs off Archer and takes the gun from Jamie. He makes his way toward the gate and says to Archer he will be responsible for what happens to his daughter as he holds her at gunpoint. Archer and now Eve watch Troy ready to kill Jamie. Jamie takes matters into her own hands, taking the butterfly knife Troy gave her and stabs him in the leg. She then ducks out of the way and Troy escapes through the gates. Archer fires and misses Troy, hitting the gates as they continue to shield him from fire. Agents arrive at the scene and let down their guard when they see Troy. Troy gets the upper hand and kills the 2 agents on site. Troy then collects their weapons and looks for a different way to escape as he sees Archer chasing after him. Troy makes his way to the docks nearby, executes one of the boat owners, and steals a boat. Troy fires at Archer still in pursuit of him and concentrates his fire at the gas containers on the dock. Archer jumps in the remaining boat to continue the chase. Archer gains composure and 2 men fight on the bow. Archer gets the upper hand. He is matching Troy at every blow until realizing the boat is about to crash into a barrier. The 2 men are thrown and survive the crash, leaving them both injured and exhausted. Archer, with his sheer will to stop Troy for good, crawls to him. This revives Troy and gives Archer a hard kick to the chest. Archer falls on his back looking for a way to quickly end the fight. He spots a harpoon gun from the wreckage of the crash. He stabs Troy in the leg with the harpoon, leaving both legs wounded and Troy in intense pain. Archer pulls the harpoon gun from Troy's leg, causing Troy to prop himself on the wall behind him. Archer stands ready to stab Troy a second time. Archer is having trouble with the trigger and makes the mistake of getting too close. Troy grabs the gun. A struggle ensues. Troy says to Archer, "He will remember him when you look at this face." Archer seems perplexed at what Troy is proposing. Troy, armed with a piece of broken glass from the boat wreckage, begins to cut his face. Archer continues to pull the trigger with Troy's grip released from the gun. A harpoon fires, hitting Troy in the chest and pinning him against the wall. Archer, with nothing left to give, hopes this will be the final blow that will end Caster Troy for good. Troy is finally dead. Archer, trying to continue to stand, loses his balance from exhaustion and falls to rest. In moments, the area is surrounded by FBI agents and local police. The agent Archer spared during the night of the raid calls Archer by his name. Archer hears his friend say his name and causes him to snap out of his current exhausted state to acknowledge him. As Archer is being wheeled into the ambulance, he is greeted by his wife. She tells him there will be a surgical procedure to reverse the face swap and that he will be okay. He uses this moment to retrieve his wedding band and finally gets a well-deserved rest. Archer, ready to go into face swap surgery, has a request to have his scar removed from the bullet wound on his chest he received from Caster Troy. The doctor agrees to his requests and informs him, when wakes up, all will be restored to the way it was before. Eve sees a figure on the porch and rushes toward the door. She sees the face of her husband and is relieved to see the face swap was a complete success. Archer holds his family tight, relieved that the danger to him and his family is finally over. Archer introduces his family to Adam, who will be adopted by him. Jamie quickly introduces herself and shows him to his new room. Archer gets Eve's blessing to take in Adam and kisses his wife as they embrace each other. Both feel it's a new beginning for their family. Surviving the horrors of the past will bring a loving, prosperous future.